you have to set up a schedule of how you want to post. That's the number one thing I tell clients. I call it the 12 points. But as long as you can keep your consistency in line, it helps you with the algorithm and keeps your views as high as they can.
Welcome to the RV Entrepreneur Podcast, the weekly show for nomads, work campers, RVers, and entrepreneurs looking to earn a living or build a business while enjoying the RV lifestyle. This week's host is Jim Nelson. Let's settle in and enjoy the RV Entrepreneur Podcast, brought to you by RV Life.
Social media. Love it or hate it? Personally, I've got a love-hate relationship with social media. It's one of those necessary evils we all must engage with if we want to grow our following and, well, increase our engagement. I'm Jim at RV Life, and my guest is here to help if you're anything like me. Lupe Alvarez created Loopie Media to help others make the most of their social media presence. That's interesting, considering he doesn't really have a huge online presence himself. And we discuss why that is. Spoiler alert, when you're doing work for other people, you tend to be more meticulous, creating the absolute best content you can. That's for sure. But it's not just about getting paid. Lupe only works with people and companies he feels a true connection with. That matters when you're the voice for that brand. So we talk about being genuine and how that connection with clients really matters most. We also talk about where to begin when it comes to social media. For Lupe, it always starts with an account evaluation. So I probed him for details about what that entails. We get into the type of engagement that matters most, how different that may be depending on the brand or product, and what statistics and insights to review when evaluating your own engagement. If you're looking to improve your social presence or increase your following, keep listening. Pay special attention to our discussion about the benefits from word-of-mouth marketing versus social media engagement. You'll also hear how social media has changed over the years, and learn about Lupe's other passion for festival work as a decompressant. What exactly is that? Find out in my discussion with Lupe from Loopie Media right after this short message. This episode is made possible by King. Are you struggling with weak campground Wi-Fi? Aren't we all? King Wi-Fi antennas are the solution to boost your internet experience. These powerful antennas pick up and amplify Wi-Fi signals from up to a mile away, ensuring you stay connected wherever you park. With easy setup, secure VPN networks, and support from multiple devices, you'll enjoy fast, reliable internet on the go. Say goodbye to slow connections and hello to seamless browsing and streaming. Choose between the King Wi-Fi Max Pro, King Swift, and King Falcon models. See why King has been a connectivity leader for over 2 decades. For more information, visit kingconnect.com. Our podcast listeners can save 15% with code RVE 2024 at checkout. And now, more from Lupe at Loopie Media. Lupe, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you here on the RV Entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Oh, it was great to meet you at the recent Hershey Summit, and you said some things there about social media that I wanted to share with the audience, and we're going to do a deep dive on social media. But technically, this is the RV Life Entrepreneur Podcast, so I like to ask all my guests 2 simple questions, just kind of get to know you, a little quick Q&A. When were you first introduced to the RV Life, and how is that any different now?
Yeah, so we were introduced to the RV Life in 2017. We knew we kind of wanted to retire and get on the road and just see the United States. And we had a few-year plan, and we made it happen at the end of 2017, bought a trailer and got on the road February of 2018, and have been on the road ever since.
Fantastic. And you're out there doing your own thing. You said retired, but you are helping people with their social media. So what does being an entrepreneur mean to you?
Yeah, being an entrepreneur is just basically making money in a way that I feel comfortable and enjoy. That's how I've always described it for myself. If I didn't do this, I'd probably find something else I loved, but I fell into this and I really loved it. And I just want to help people continue expanding their view on it and making it easier for them.
So tell me a bit more about that. You help people with social media, but when I tried to find your presence, it seems as though you're not having a huge engagement on your own, not promoting your own brand, yet you're helping other people. So why do you enjoy doing it for other people when not necessarily for yourself?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. And there's a couple different aspects to that is I am extremely dyslexic. A lot of people don't realize that. So doing it on my own, I don't tend to concentrate or focus as much. So it tends to me to look very wobbly and unprofessional for myself because I don't put that extra time in for myself. But whenever I do it for clients or for other people, I tend to get hyper focused on it. So it gives me that opportunity to be able to really pay a little more attention, look at it multiple times, and make sure that it's hitting its mark for other people. So that's really one of the funniest and the biggest things that comes out of that is just that dyslexia has helped me in a way and not helped me in a way with this business.
The reason is interesting, but I can totally get it because it's like the cobbler's kids have no shoes. And when it comes to our own social media presence, I've got kind of a love-hate relationship with our tripods community. We've kind of built our own social network. So getting on the Facebook or other platforms where you have all those squirrels and bells and whistles and a lot of vitriol and a lot of hatred, you brought up, made me think of a story I forget, but you told at the recent Hershey show you told a story about kind of the love-hate part of social media where either you were left it or do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think, is it the video that I told you I saw?
Yeah,
or the commercial?
I'd love you to share that commercial with people and what your thoughts were on that.
I've been looking for it again for years and haven't been able to really find it. But it was about this photographer who took a picture of this little creature in the woods and he fell in love with it. Well, he shared the photo. Well, then the consequences of him sharing the photo was someone went and captured the creature. Then they put the creature on display, and then they put the creature into this amusement park. So all of these people were making money off of the capture of this poor little fluffy creature. And then it kept spiraling. And the guy was having this flashback, but then he realizes, this isn't right for the creature or for me to do this. So he deletes the photo and just enjoys it and is in the moment with it. And I understand that works for some things, like for locations and places that you really want to visit that you want to preserve. But for the media aspect of companies, you have to share your product. Mm-hmm. So that's another good reason I kind of have left social media for the most part on my personal side and don't mind doing it on a business side.
That makes total sense. And being on the road 15, 17 years now, we've kind of seen that happen with the best boondocking spots and some of the spots out there that have since been closed down or just gotten really crowded because they're being shared so much. So it's kind of that love-hate thing. We have to do it for work, but then we've been in plenty of opportunities where I don't share personally or socially. I'm just kind of always been
exactly
the brand. Like I'm the man behind tripods. So talk to me a bit about when it comes to a social presence. There's often talk about personality versus brand and how it can be one and the same if you're a coach or an influencer type person. But do you see, the engagement required different when it comes to a coach or a personality versus a company with products? What's the approach? Is it different or the same?
Very, very much. Speaking from like the social media aspect, like of what I do is I typically take over someone's site completely for the most part, or I can piecemeal it depending on what they want. But whenever I take over someone's, account, I have to find their voice. So whether it be their personality, whether it be their product, that's kind of the first determination. Am I going to be the person that is actually physically speaking for you as you, or do we have a product that I have to really learn to understand and figure out everything that works behind it so that I'm not having to contact you 24/7 and be like, what does this mean? What's happening here? How does this product work? You really have that kind of deep dive. And the goal is for me to always connect the two, because even if it's a product, you want to connect the personality of not just the person, but of the company that is promoting this. Because if those don't always line up, it doesn't always work out for the advertisement aspect.
Because being genuine is so important and vital. And in our own experience, we've had a hard time finding that perfect Loopie out there because our messaging with the pet amputation community that we operate, we've been speaking our own voice for, 15 years to try and get someone on board as us has been challenging. So how do you, where do you begin where do you begin with social media management? Tell me what you mean by a social media account evaluation. Is that the place to start? And what does that entail?
Yeah, so exactly. So that's kind of my bread and butter in a way, is I do evaluations. So basically, I will ask for credentials to log into your social media platforms. It usually takes me about a week. I go in, look at all the posts, look at all the engagements, look at how you're talking, look at your photos, and do a dive in on that and see if everything hits the mark on certain evaluations that I do. So is it relevant? Does it work with your company? Does it work with your personality? You just want to make sure everything can actually mingle together. And if it doesn't, I go in and look at the analytics and see where you're actually making it work and where you need help on. So that's kind of where I start out with everyone, is let's do an evaluation and see if this actually worked. And then from there, I look at the product and see if I can take it over for you. If I have no idea what you're working on or anything like that, it's not beneficial for me to help you. I'd have to find someone else to help you, because if I really can't speak on behalf of you for you, we're not going to be a fit. I love to give evaluations because it lets people know what they can do personally to make it work for themselves, if that's the route they want to go. But if not, then we can do the deep dive and find out how to make a plan for you and how to execute that so that it is successful for your media.
So you're able to evaluate like a history of engagement and kind of get their tone if you are going to be taking over as them?
Yeah, basically. So I look at the analytics. I look at, your post responses. I look at what people are replying to, and I use all of that to kind of see, which posts are working for you. If they have images, if they don't have images, if it really does connect to your product, or if it's just something really off the wall, just to kind of, tweak it in a way. A lot of people kind of think social media managers are bad in a way. They kind of, it's a weird negative connotation that I've found. They're like, you just post, you just do this, you just do that. But the evaluation part really helps people to see what they're doing on their side versus what someone else would be doing on the actual media side.
So you mentioned analytics a couple of times in there, and I bet that's a big part of evaluation. I doubt a majority of solopreneurs or small businesses are looking at that. What metrics would one look at if they want to determine, the scope of their engagement, or what's, you said, working or not? What would someone look at? What kind of data do they want to analyze?
Yeah, that's kind of hard. It changes. It's changing a lot more and a lot faster than it has been over the last few years. It used to be that, algorithms and analytics could be looked at for like the last 6 months, and you could really understand something to work on it. But now it's really gotten to about 2 to 3 months to where you have to reevaluate everything and make sure that you're hitting those algorithms. But the analytics part of looking at it it's kind of complicated for me, because I use a dated thing that I've used for like the last 8 years from working for Facebook. So I've found that it stands to be a very good standard over the last 8 years. And that's basically what I use, is those analytics originally from Facebook. And I just keep tweaking them as the years go by to add and help people understand what they're doing.
So did you work for Facebook?
Yeah, so randomly, whenever we first got on the road, I was very not sure of what I was going to do for a living. And I had done a little social media for a mom and pop company that I worked with before leaving. And I saw an ad that Facebook was looking for evaluators. And that's kind of how I started my career doing social media 8 years ago now. And over the last 4 years now, I decided to create my own business and work for myself and for people that I wanted to work for. I kind of left the big corporate jobs and started working with mom and pops and just very random groups. My go-to is I love working for nonprofits. Anytime I can help a nonprofit, I believe in giving back. It's one of the biggest things people can do out there. But yeah, just solely working for people I wanted to work for was a game changer for me. So leaving Facebook and creating my own company, Loopie Media, was the biggest decision I made. And I didn't know how it was going to work out, but it's 4 years now and no issues and loving it and still going.
Well, interesting. What a great way to get trained, by the beast there in the mix. I had a nephew that worked at Facebook and eventually couldn't handle the environment there. When you say you were evaluating for them, were you basically doing social media evaluation and engagement for companies or brands that were advertising on the platform, or was it internal?
Yeah, so it was for companies that were doing marketing. So you can do your campaigns and stuff where you make your videos and your clips and then you submit them. Well, Facebook at that time had a part where you could actually pay someone to look at those and evaluate them to see if it would work on Facebook if you were hitting certain key points, like actually showing your product, mentioning your product, having your logos, things like that. And that's what I did for 8 hours a day. And it was fun. I enjoyed it, but I knew it wasn't necessarily something I wanted to stick with. Meta has changed much over the years, and it's gotten very, I guess the word I like to use is intrusive a lot. And I just kind of didn't agree with that. So trying to step away from that, I was able to keep what I had learned and the algorithms and just random analytics, looking at analytics to figure out what was working, what wasn't, into my own platform.
Yeah, and like I said, what an awesome way to get paid to get trained. Having been inside, is there any magic bullet? Is there any secrets when someone wants to increase their engagement in whatever scope they're focused on?
The only thing I can really say like that is being consistent. You have to set up a schedule of how you want to post. That's the number one thing I tell clients, depending on how you do I call it the 12 points. So you at least want 12 posts a month minimum for no matter what kind of business you are. So that's usually 3 a week, or, it just varies how you want to do it. But as long as you can keep your consistency in line, it helps you with the algorithm and keeps your views as high as they can. Because if you're posting every 4 days, every 3 days, you have that consistency and you know that there's something coming up. And it not only helps you know that you have something that you have to do every 3 days, but it helps that algorithm to make it more visible for you to be seen.
Excellent advice. And you mentioned Facebook quite a bit here, but I wonder if there are other platforms you work on with people, and or if there's certain platforms that are better for different types of engagement, or if let's say they want to focus on comments or likes or follows or driving traffic off platform. So does it matter what platforms work for what?
Yeah, I mean, there is. I mean, there's so many different places that you can use. The number two I always recommend are the originals, Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is very photo heavy. So if you do things that are very visual, you want to stick with Instagram, but still cross post to Facebook. Facebook is very informative in a way. YouTube, of course, is very video heavy. LinkedIn is very business oriented. So it really depends on what type of business you have and what kind of audience that you're trying to reach. And that's all something I go over during my evaluations and figure it out. I predominantly love to stick more to Facebook and Instagram. That's just what I've known for the most part over the years. I've slowly been branching out into TikTok. Not my favorite type of things, but it's always about trying to learn new things and see what's working for clients. But really, the main thing that comes down to advertising yourself in this day and age is Facebook. If you don't have a Facebook account, that is semi-active, you really need to work on that to get your social media presence for sure.
And the world is on Facebook. And some of the best advice I had when it's just so easy to get overwhelmed with all the platforms and trying to keep up on all of them. The best advice I had once was to be where your people are. So if your company is, business-like and it's on, and your audience is on LinkedIn, you focus on that. If it's, visual, then you're on YouTube. So to be where your people are was some of the best advice I had once. So when it comes to actually doing the work, are you using any sort of automation tools, or what platforms are you using to engage on the platforms and schedule things, especially considering Facebook doesn't allow third-party apps to do that for you? What tools are you using?
Yeah, so I used to use Hootsiute for the longest time, and then I realized there was real no need to pay for something like that because Facebook has Business Suite, which is their own built-in program. It allows you to leave everything that you want to post. You can schedule reels, you can schedule stories, you can schedule any of your posts up to 31 days in advance. So it makes it so that you can post and keep everything regulated and look and see your schedule. I love to keep everything evergreen so that if anything, pops up that needs to be time sensitive, you can just push it down a couple days and still have, what you worked on. But Business Suite has been the number one tool that I think I've used the last 2 years at this point, just because they keep integrating new things into it and it's completely free. There's no reason not to use it if your main focus is Facebook and Instagram, because you can cross post to both platforms using it.
I agree. I've been using it more, kind of forced into it since they kind of shut down auto posting from Zapier and IFTTT and those sort of automated things. They want genuine engagement. So it's just a matter of, doing the time and scheduling it out. Like you said, have a calendar and that sort of thing. But since you've been doing this for quite a while now, how has social media changed over the past, say, few years with the way society has changed? What big changes have you seen on Facebook in particular?
The biggest thing I would say is the algorithms. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, it used to be that you could stick with what you were doing for at least 6 months and schedule stuff out like that because everything was kind of standard. But now you really have to play with it about every 3 months to kind of tweak what you're doing, tweak your wording. Hashtagging used to be a big thing, not so much anymore. It's still kind of used for taglines, I would say, in a way, but that's almost gone away completely. SEO as hashtagging was a big thing for a while as well. We don't do that much anymore. We still use a lot of SEO, but we use that in our wording more than we did used to, at least. You really want to focus on that. SEO is always the big thing. Everyone always talks about SEO and how that helps. Really now it's just really kind of having to reevaluate what you're doing every 2 to 3 months and just making sure that it fits for the platforms now. We have so many different things that are coming out, like Facebook is doing now their videos and their movie type things, which is really going to change the way things are viewed in the next few months as well.
Are you ready to elevate your RVing adventures? With RV Life Pro, you're not just getting a service, you're gaining a reliable companion for your journey. From planning your trips with precision, to navigating with confidence, and even connecting with a vibrant community of fellow RV enthusiasts, RV Life Pro is your all-in-one solution. Don't just dream about the perfect adventure, live it. Visit RVLife.com today and discover how RV Life can enhance your RVing experience.
The platform is designed to distract and just engage and keep people scrolling and scrolling. So how do brands or personalities stick out? What type of content is working? And I'm sure it depends on the brand or the company or the product, but what gets people to actually stop and engage with you?
Yeah, it all comes down to visual branding. I mean, if you cannot have visual branding, there's really not much that can keep the eyes of your client on your page or just onto, clicking your link. And the more engagements you can have by having that, that visual, that's really the main thing that's going to make social media work for you. A lot of people want to do a mix of wording between, their post and their photo, or just wording. But for the most part, if you don't have a visual at this point anymore, you're really just being scrolled past. And if you look at Facebook or Instagram or most of the platforms, you'll notice that I think it used to be every 6 post was a advertisement or something that you didn't follow. And it's now gotten to the point to where it's every 4. And that makes a big difference. So you're really competing with those other entities to try to keep people focused on what you're doing. So visuals have come to be the main aspect of marketing at this point.
And that comes back to brand recognition too, because you tell me, does consistency matter? Do you want people to realize and recognize, oh, that's that brand I follow? Or do you shoot in the dark and keep doing those meme things that everyone's trying to scramble to the top with?
Yeah, I don't believe in the trendy marketing, things like that, unless it fits into your brand. You want to keep your logos intact, play with your logos every so often, not necessarily rebrand them or remake them, but keep the logo, move it around, change the wording on it, have a good horizontal, vertical, flat image, things like that you can push into your images that you're making. That way people can see, your logo at all times. But yeah, as long as you can keep it on market, if it's trendy, do the trend if it works for you, whatever, but just stay on brand. Don't try to lose that and be trendy is my biggest thing.
So stay consistent so people recognize you and keep following you. Yeah. When it comes to branding, what can brands do to increase their following? If they have a following but it's static and they want to increase their following, how do they get more followers?
Yeah, one of the biggest things I do with clients is I look for groups that are similar to them, and then we go in and try to see if it's a local group, state groups. A lot of my companies are very centralized in Arizona and California, so I'll go in and see what they're doing basically, and seeing if there's other groups we can cross post in that will allow it. That's not always the case. There's always competition, but general groups that have the same type of brand that you do, that you can share your information in, is a great way to not only share your posts, but to be able to put your information out in other areas that you wouldn't necessarily have access to full time. You don't want to post everything, that you post into that group, but you want to keep, things that are very, I don't know how to put it, but very branded for you, things that people will see and be like, hey, that's interesting. Other people are doing this as well, but this company seems to maybe have a leg up or something that stands out that can draw them from those other groups into your actual media presence.
And if the goal is to actually, get eyeballs, get attention and draw them your way, how do you craft a message that isn't spammy? Because a lot of the groups won't allow promotional posts, or if they do, I see brands, I run a group with 170,000 members. I run a couple different groups, but that one, I get people joining, and the very first thing they'll post is something like, come see my thing, follow me, like me. And I don't allow that. So does it take time to work your way, build up the trust, or how do you promote your message without being promotional?
Yeah, definitely. No, that's one of the biggest things, because you don't want to step on those toes in the group, because then you're basically kicked out, or you don't get to see or post anything anymore because you're violating those terms. So it's all about wording. It's not, you don't want to use, come check out my page, or like and follow, or things like that really stand out. It's like, hey, just wanted to give you this information. If this is allowed, look at this, see what we're doing. It's not about having them necessarily, you got to click, you need to see this, or come like and follow. It's about, we just want to share this information to make sure that everyone has it. And this is a very similar type group. If it works for you, we want you to, basically, it's just give the information, not try to find a follower out of it, not trying to get a like out of it, just sharing what your company is doing or the personality of your company, and being like, hey, we travel all the time too. We thought this group would really enjoy it. Check us out. no big deal. Things like that. And that really is one of the hardest things is, a lot of people see it as like poaching in groups or, just like you said, the very first post, hey, come like and follow us or blah, 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 things like that. So you really have to understand that it's not about like stealing the clientele or anything like that. It's about informing them and being like, hey, just so you know, there's another type of organization or group like this that you might be interested in. And here's some information. Do with it as you will. You don't have to necessarily click on it or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it comes back to building those relationships and building that trust and sharing content that, that audience is going to find useful, and then they'll find you useful, and then they're more likely to find your own message useful. And sometimes social media goes awry, or certain entities might announce things that or actions might happen that weren't announced the right way, and maybe they have a huge following, and all of a sudden there's a huge amount of backlash. I think we both know of a certain organization now that had a huge announcement, and their followers and fans bashed them. Do you have any tips for damage control when it comes to kind of reeling in your presence when it goes awry?
That's always the hardest thing, because we live in a world now where technology is number one, so we're always reading things. And whenever you read things, you tend to read it in your personal tone and how you feel. So if you're angry at how, this was delivered, you're going to be angry reading it. That's just the way it's going to come across no matter what. So damage control is really one of the biggest things for that. I mean, once you realize that something like that has happened, the easiest thing to do is put out another message and be like, look, we understand that this might have been read in a way that is hurtful or inconsiderate to so-and-so or blank, or this company. But with all honest intentions, this is how we wanted it to read. Just giving that honest, sincere, not apology, because I don't ever believe you should have to apologize for putting something out that you believed in that was just taken obscured. But just giving a follow-up, a detailed follow-up with accountability on your end and what people are feeling, and just going with that. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. People are always going to want to be angry on Facebook or Instagram or whatever platform you're using if they don't agree with it or agree with what you're saying. There's nothing we can do to get around that. I mean, that's why we have moderators, to go in and, hide comments and things like that, which is a big part of social media, of course. You always want to keep the positive side up and try to, mitigate the negative part of it. But sometimes you want to keep that negative part up as well, because you want people to understand that, we want you to see it from a different aspect. And if you can take a look at it and see what other people are saying that are positive, it helps switch that tone around as well.
Yeah, and it comes back to that trust.
Sure.
Yeah, you build up that trust, you keep that trust. At the recent Hershey workshop, you actually posed a question to us on stage there that really sparked a discussion about building that trust and getting, the advancement and out there in social media and such. And you asked kind of the difference in which works better, the social media versus word of mouth marketing. And my answer was kind of like, social media is the new word of mouth. But what exactly did you mean by that? And how do you think those differ? What do you mean by the word of mouth marketing these days?
So I think that that question was kind of confusing on both ends, because what I was talking about was kind of advertising myself on that question. But after hearing it, I understood how people were listening to it. So social media is key no matter what. For any business, any platform like that, you want to have that presence. You want people to be able to find you. Word of mouth is a great way to do small things, but in order to expand yourself, social media, I believe, is key. For me, marketing myself, I don't have a social media presence, as you talked about earlier. For my business, I have never wanted to promote that in a way that was pushing onto others. So all of my clients have always come to me as word of mouth from other clients.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two different things. But, for having a business that has a product or personality, word of mouth is great, but social media is always going to be key.
Sure. And I remember a consensus was that word of mouth is going to get you more genuine followers, long-term clients and things. So talk to me about how connection with your clients matters most. When we started, you kind of said that, if you determine a client isn't best for you, you're going to refer them away. And that's pretty honest and trustworthy. So I believe you have some great clients because you really connect with them. Talk to me about how important the connection is there.
Yeah, that's my number one thing whenever I started my own business was I wanted to work for people that I liked and I could connect with. So I've had many different types of positions and companies that I've worked with. So right now, one of the biggest ones that I've worked with for the longest is a band. They are a husband and wife couple that travel in a van. They started in a Class A, and I'm their voice on social media. They give me all their information, I put it in, and I tell their story with my voice. And it's basically replicating them. I've done this with other companies like solar companies. I've done it with nonprofits. But the number one thing that I've always looked at is that if there's not a connection there, and I can't be the one to find your voice, advertise you in a way that's going to work for you, it's not going to be fun for me. And it's not going to look good on your end. So there's no reason for us to work together, sadly. As much as I, would like to, or, if I can't make it work, neither of us are going to be happy, and it's not going to be a good connection down the road. If I wanted to connect with you something else down the road, how's that going to look when I couldn't make it work for your social media? If I can help you find someone that can fit that voice of yours, I gladly do that. I've got plenty of other friends that do social media as well. But if I really can't find your voice, it's, there's really no connection. I want to make money. Everyone wants to make money. That's the thing. But I want to make money in a way that makes me happy. And if I'm not happy doing your media, it's not going to work for either of us, sadly.
It's a win-win for everybody when you actually have that connection, and it will be a genuine, organic relationship. With the band, I believe you're talking about the Status Crows, and listeners can learn more with my episode interviewing them. We'll put those notes in the show. But speaking of bands and such, you also like festivals, I believe. Tell me about what do you do at festivals, and how do you find that work, and why do you enjoy it so much?
Yeah, so festival work is like my work away from work. It's my fun getaway from the RV life. I travel, typically stay in a U-Haul van or something very random like a Chrysler Pacifica, and it's just a way to get away. I bartend. I've done concessions a few times, but it's a way for me to kind of escape the day-to-day of my regular job, even though I'm still working. I'm very much a people person. So working festivals, I meet so many different people just from my work crew, not to mention the other people who are coming up, because these are 3 to 4 day festivals for the most part. So you get the same kind of clientele coming in. They get to know you and they want to, keep coming back to you, which is a good goal to have. It's really changed the way I vacation, I guess you can say, in a way.
Sure.
So I just got done with a month of traveling, doing festival work on top of, my social media work. So like we got to meet in Hershey. That was my first week. And from there, I flew to Columbus, Ohio, and did a music festival there. And then flew to Ocean City, Maryland, where I did 2 festivals back to back, all very different types, EDM, country, and just mainstream music. I could have paid to go to any of these events, and it could have been thousands of dollars, but on the other hand, I got paid to be there and got to hear the same exact music. So it works out really.
How fun is that? It's a workcation. You're getting paid to enjoy the time. Can you share any tips for where you can find festival work?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different places depending on your locations. Just traveling. So I do bartending mostly. So I look for traveling bartender pages. There's hundreds of them that you'll find on Facebook specifically. And it's basically just people sharing information about their local states. Like, we have this festival going on, we have that festival. And it's a great way to network, see if you would be interested in something like this. This year, I put a little work crew together of RVers. There were 8 of us that worked Coachella and Stagecoach together, 3 weekends back to back in California. And so they loved it. Some of it can be hard work. It's good money as well, but you get to really see a different view of the festival industry, working in it and being able to explore it at the same time.
It definitely sounds fun. And you mentioned that you work as a decompressant at festivals. What do you mean? What's a decompressant?
So a decompressant is a person that you can come to. They have safe havens at a lot of festivals where you can kind of cool down, relax, get away from the heat, get away from the noise. So it's someone that you can sit with who can kind of bring you back down to earth, whether you're having a bad trip, if you're just having a hard time. Festival life for some can be extremely fun. For people who've never done it before, it can be very overstimulating. So it's a really fun way to give back to the festival world as well and help people get grounded and enjoy their time there. A lot of people have paid thousands of dollars to come to these type of things, and they just get really overstimulated. I mean, it's a hard way to put it, but between alcohol, music, and drugs and random other, life things that might be happening with a partner that's there, you can really lose yourself, and you don't want to lose that time while you're there. So they have people in these areas that help with that, which is a really fun way to give back. I love giving back. Like I said, I work with a lot of nonprofits over the years, and anytime you can do something to help other people, I believe in doing that. So that's a fun way for me to do festival work as well.
Wonderful. And you've definitely got a demeanor that I can see would really work in certain situations at a festival. Lupe, we may need to talk because I have a certain nonprofit and we don't necessarily love the social media work we do. I love your branding, Loopie Media. Where can people find out more about how you can help them?
So like we said, I don't really advertise myself online. If you do have any questions, one of the easiest ways to get a hold of me is Bert and Loopie on the Road on Facebook. And we do have a page that we kind of use for family and some media stuff that we've done over the years. And we don't post much on it, but I've always got access to it, and I respond to a lot of clients that reach out to me that way.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for spending your time with me here today.
Yeah, no problem, Jim. This has been great.
Lupe is amazing. He got his start helping brands with their social media campaigns while working at Facebook. So he really knows his stuff. One common thread that keeps coming up when talking with RV entrepreneurs about social media and marketing is that connection matters. Relationships matter. Being genuine matters. And Lupe just wasn't feeling that in the corporate environment at Facebook. I don't blame him for going out on his own. The type of relationships he now has with his clients is a win-win for everyone. In general, social media isn't really that social. People get lost in their feed all day. But when you're authentic and consistent with your messaging and visual branding, you can stand out and make a difference in the lives of your fans and followers. Speaking of followers, do you follow the RV Entrepreneur on Facebook? We're at RV Entrepreneur on Instagram. Check the page for updates from the RVE news blog, or subscribe at RVEntrepreneur.com for all the latest episodes, helpful articles, and live event news. Then keep this discussion going in the RV Entrepreneur group on Facebook with some genuine, authentic engagement of your own. Who knows? Maybe you'll make that connection you've been waiting for with a new client or a fellow nomadic friend. Until next time, I'm Jim, and I'm an RV Entrepreneur.
Bid farewell to the stress of travel planning with RV Life Trip Wizard. This feature allows you to customize your routes, avoid potential hazards, and even discover the best campgrounds based on real user reviews. It's not just about reaching your destination, it's about enjoying the journey. And with RV Life Trip Wizard, every journey is effortless. Learn more about this game-changing feature at RVLife.com.